Welcome, Roylin, mate, to Chats with Alex. Good to see you here.
Good to see you, mate.
How are you going?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's a deep freeze here in Canada in Edmonton, but keep warm. I keep something on my head because my head gets cold when I shave my head, right? And so often I have to put something on my head because your head keeps most of your heat in, and if I get my head covered, then I'm okay. Even inside in the wintertime, you'll see me with something on my head.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep your head warm, but I'm sure your smile makes everyone around you feel warm as well, even during the
Oh, thank
winter.
you. Thanks, mate.
I always love seeing you smiling in your videos. It really makes me smile and feel happy when I see you happy and smiling. It provides
Oh,
joy for everyone.
oh, hey, that's it's just so natural to me. When I was a kid, people, my mom always said, when I was in Louisiana, last time I was down, and I went to get some tickets. Actually, we went to see The Chosen, and I was walking but the car, and she goes, "You just smile for no reason, don't you? You just smiling." She's like, "I'm looking around to see who you're smiling at." She said, "That's just you." She said, "You've been like that since you were a kid." So.
When did you first get started in music and how did you start first singing and the songwriting?
I got started in music in 1974. So kind of let you know a little bit how old and how young I am. So 1974 I got started. My mom bought a organ from Campo Music, and with the organ you got 6 months of lessons or something like that. And so I started taking lessons, and that's how it all started. So I started on the organ,
Was
and then
that
eventually. Yeah, go
in
ahead.
church?
Yeah, eventually, I started at 11 years old, and then by the time I was 15, I started playing piano at church because they already had an organist, so I would play with the pianist. And when the organist wasn't there, I would fill in. And then one day, my uncle, the organist got in a fuss with my uncle, and he fired her. She quit, and he's like, "Well, I'm not hiring another one. You can play." And I was like 15 years old playing for a Baptist church in New Orleans. I was like, oh boy, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But I guess I was.
Is
So,
that where you're from?
yeah, I'm from Louisiana. So I was born in Lutcher, Louisiana, which is a river parish. So I think Lutcher is in St. James Parish or St. I don't know for sure. My mom would know that better than me. But it's a river parish, meaning it's right along the Mississippi River. Uh, and moved to New Orleans probably when we were really young, probably like 5 or 6 years old. Like I was in New Orleans by kindergarten, and I was in New Orleans till 1989. I came to Canada April 4th, 1989, and I've been here ever since. I've gone back to visit, but I've been living in Canada since 1989.
Alberta, Canada, right?
Yeah, Alberta. Yeah, Alberta. Yeah, Alberta, Canada. Yeah, Edmonton, Alberta. Edmonton's the city. Alberta's the province.
And what's the music scene there like and how are all the people? Is it like a warm feeling when it comes to the music scene?
Yeah, Edmonton. You wouldn't think of it because it's like a blue collar city, right? But the music here is really like the blues and jazz is really great here. Like I was really surprised at like how good the blues and jazz musicians are here, right?
Yeah, and when it comes to like performing, do you do gigs or open mics or what do you do mostly? Is jam sessions?
A lot of what I'll do lately has been open mics. Sometimes I'll get gigs. A lot of times my gigs would be like at a church or playing for, people die. So sometimes I play for a funeral or wedding, or sometimes I'll play, with a band to go somewhere. So it depends on what it is, right? But most of the time I play, if I do a gig, I usually do it by myself. Sometimes I'll have one singer with me, right? And then I've performed at like senior homes and uh, performed at schools. I did a music workshop with a poet friend. That was really interesting in Jasper. Jasper is about 4 hours west of Edmonton. Two and a half, Linda said. But anyway, it's and I did that was a high school there, and my friend we showed how like poetry and music, they're hand in hand, right? I mean that's Leonard Cohen. You ever heard of Leonard Cohen?
Yes.
Yeah, so Leonard Cohen started as a poet, and he realized that make I'm not gonna make much money being a poet. So he was here in Edmonton. I think it was in the 60s when he decided that he was going to do music, right? And that's when he started saying, I'm going to start taking these lyrics and putting music to them. And the rest is history.
When it comes to performing, what do you prefer doing as an artist or singer, originals or covers?
I prefer originals because then I don't have to remember other people's lyrics. Especially like for instance, I remember you sent me a thing where you did a cover of The Gambler, and man, like, so I'll tell you a story about The Gambler. They wanted Willie Nelson to do it, and Willie Nelson says too many lyrics, man. He says I have enough songs to remember, so he gave it to Kenny Rogers. So I like doing originals because hey, uh, Michael Jackson got famous doing originals, right? I'm not saying I'm a Michael Jackson, but I think if you're gonna make it, all the people who are named musicians and legends are legends from doing originals. Now, I don't mind doing covers. My mom told me, she said, when you do a gig, she said, just do a few covers because at least people know those songs. Like, because I'm not a world famous musician, right? So my originals, most people don't know, right? But it's good to throw. So let's say if I did a gig and it had 10 songs, I'll try to do at least two or three covers, right? But most will be originals.
Yeah, mate, I completely agree with you. And also think that when you are starting out more so than when you've got heaps of experience, such as yourself, when you're younger, it's better to do a few more covers, especially if you're like in a crowd of people.
Right. Yeah.
But it also feels really good when you do originals too. So I think if you can do a bit of both, it's good.
Yeah, like for instance, let's say if I have an open mic and it's a 3 song set, I'll try to do either two covers and one original or two originals and one cover.
Or what if it's an 8 song set? What would you do then?
If it was an 8 song set, I'd probably do 5 and 3 or 6 and 2, but mostly originals, right? Because like I said, I have a decent memory. I think because I started as a musician and not a singer, so learning songs musically is way easier for me than learning the lyrics, right? And so that's why, like I said, and even with my originals, I'm like, if you notice with my originals, I don't really do a lot of lyric writing, right? Because I don't like remembering a lot of lyrics.
When writing songs, what's something that inspires you to write songs? Like what makes you go, this is what I want to write about?
Okay, so sometimes you can be watching something on TV or you read something. Uh, I listen to a good bit of audiobooks because I like to walk, right? And so sometimes I'll hear an idea in an audiobook, and that can be an inspiration. So like the last song I posted on Instagram, the laughing song. Now that's an interesting one. My friend had a piano and I was at her place and she had some sheet music on it and it said the laughing song. She said, "Can you play that?" And I said, by the time I figure how to play it reading music, so I just made up something, right? And they said, "Wow, that's pretty good." And so that's how that song. So inspiration. I mean, you write songs. It catches you off guard, right? Like I'm not one like if I try to sit down and say I'm just gonna write a song, it's like most of the time I'm walking and the song they just come to me, right? And then when I get to an instrument, I'll play it. But I don't like they said Paul McCartney when he was at the Beatles, he would literally say, "We're gonna write a song today. Like we're gonna sit down and write a song." Like for me, it doesn't work that way. Like I guess I let songs write me. I let songs be written on me. I would like to say,
Do you ever dream of a song and wake up in the morning and then you write it down all of a sudden?
yeah, I had a few of my songs have come like that, literally in dreams. There's a song that I haven't done it on YouTube yet, or I don't think I've ever done it on Instagram. It's called "The Joy That I Am Is Forevermore," and I was sleeping and I woke up singing the song, and like it literally came to me in a dream on like I never forget December 26, 2007, because it was the first time that happened. And then it happened to me probably about 5 or 6 more times since then, where I'll literally just have a melody and it'll be like I'll wake up and I'll just go to either grab the ukulele or grab the keyboard and start playing it. So to me, I don't say I wrote that song. I just let it through, right?
It came to you pretty much.
It came to me, yeah.
That's awesome. When it comes to people you love to listen to that are musicians, who's some of your favorite ones that you love?
I like I like Sting. I really like Sting. I listen to Sting do interviews and he talks about he tries to surprise people in his songs. He tries to do something that they don't expect. And I don't know if I always do that, but I try to do it. If not musically, lyrically, I'll try to say something that's, unique. Uh, as I would say, juicy. uh, let's see. But for me, I would say Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, like keyboard players. Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, uh, BB King. That's who I grew up listening to. Uh, when I was Andre Crouch. Andre Crouch was probably like the king of gospel music for like 2 or 3 decades, like from like the 70s to about through the 90s. And he was a big influence. Andre Crouch, Walter Hawkins, um, who else? I think that's Ray Charles. I said Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, right?
Yeah.
So, people like that. I didn't get into I didn't pick up like guitar ukulele until I was like, I think I was like 50, 55. Like I was in my 50s when I started messing around with string instruments. But I caught on pretty quick because to me, a string instrument is a keyboard turned sideways. So I
Yeah.
kind of understood how chords work, but I just had to learn how to get my hand from working this way to working this way.
Nice, mate. I love the sign behind you. It's got a lot of words. Do you mind reading what the words are on the
Oh,
sign?
someone signed. My friend Linda's a teacher, so she has a lot of. Okay, so let's see. I'll read it to you. It says, "Cheer when you feel praise, cuddle for comfort and love, care for those in tender need, believe you have what it takes, adore those that touch your heart, relax and listen to your soul, wish upon a shining star, share and always share alike, rejoice and really live for today." I can't read the last one.
That's
So
amazing.
something like that would inspire a song. Like I could probably get at least 3 songs off of that.
for sure.
And I know you too as a songwriter, right? Like I'm sure one of those you could say, "Hey, I could definitely use that as a lyric."
Every word. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. When it comes to words in songs, is there some key words that you feel that are not used much these days in songs that you wish would be used more?
Uh, a word that I would like to see used in songs more would be, let me think. Uh, geez. Well, I think the thing when you're writing songs, depending on what type of writer you are, because being a poet, I'm a lyrical writer. So sometimes I try to make my words rhyme, right? So sometimes I think that depends. I think a lot of times when people are writing songs and if they're writing them lyrically, it depends on like if the word, but I would say a word that I would love to see uh in songs more is the word profusely, which means super abundance, super abundantly. Another word that I think you don't hear in songs a lot would be indubitably, but it's a tricky one, right? That's a tongue twister, indubitably. I can't even say it. So maybe not. Maybe that's why it's not in songs, because it's a bit of a tongue twister. Uh let's see. I'll pick one more word that I would like to see in songs would be hmm, uh
Did
yeah,
Linda
there
say
you go.
something?
Well, yeah, Linda said playfulness, and I like that. Like
Yeah,
playfulness,
same.
that's a good word to be in songs, but because I think adults need to play more.
For sure. Absolutely. Have fun and enjoy every moment.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
What's one of the best times you've had in music, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, one of the best times I've had in music. I would say some of my best times were probably at church because Baptist church people are a good crowd. They're very enthusiastic, hallelujah, right? And I mean, as a performer, if an audience is really into it, you're really into it. So I would say some of my most powerful moments have been like playing for choirs or playing for like a vocalist who's really good, right? Playing at weddings is always quite a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, I can imagine you're there for someone's most important moment, so it would be something to
But
remember.
okay, I'll give you one of my favorites, and I think I sent it to you because you know my song "Tear That Curtain Down," right? We're gonna tear that curtain down. We're gonna tear that curtain down. We're gonna rip it apart. We're gonna heal our heart. We're gonna tear that curtain down. So I did that song at the Edmonton Legislative Grounds. So that'll be like the capital of Alberta. And that was really powerful to do that song. And it was during the time. Remember the truckers, mate? When the truckers doing the pandemic and the truckers were going across the country because you
Yes,
had
yes,
truckers in Australia.
I
So
saw that. Yeah.
we had truckers here in Canada that was going across Canada, right? And I went out to support the truckers, and I sung that song about like tearing the curtain down, right? Tearing the curtain of fear down, and et cetera, et cetera. So that was one of my most memorable, especially in Canada, because it's nothing like singing to an audience, and it's an easy song to learn, right? So people pick up on it because it repeats a bit, and I think that's the key. You have to have a good hook that people can remember and sing along with, and that was probably my most memorable in Canada. I have yet to do that song in a church in Louisiana because I know it would be really good in New Orleans, right?
Or a church in Melbourne, Australia.
Church in Melbourne. When I come to Melbourne, we'll do it, mate.
Absolutely. That would be awesome. Uh, have you met anyone that's like really well known, and what was your experience like meeting them?
I met Wynton Marsalis. You know who he is?
No.
Okay, so Wynton Marsalis. Okay, you know who Louis Armstrong is?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, so Louis Armstrong was like the trumpet player of his day, and I would say Wynton Marsalis would probably be that person today, right? If he's not the player, he's one of the top, maybe because he's older now, because he's head of the jazz, the Kennedy Jazz Foundation. I think it's a big foundation either in New York or Washington, D.C. But anyway, long story short, Wynton Marsalis is a jazz legend. He's up there with Louis. He's like a modern day Louis Armstrong for his trumpets goes. So he came to Edmonton, and my friend Andy took me to go see the concert, and he kept telling everyone he's from New Orleans. Da, da, da. And so because he told so many people, they said, "Well, maybe you would like to meet Wynton after the show since you're from New Orleans and he's from New Orleans." So I got to meet him, right? And we talked after the show, and he told me two interesting things. He said he used to play at the Dewdrop. So the Dewdrop was a famous blues club in New Orleans in the probably the 50s and 60s. By the 70s, it kind of got run down and kind of became a dive. But when Marcellus is, I think, 2 or 3 years older than me, well, he was playing at the bar and I was playing at the church on the same block, and we never met each other until Edmonton, like 50 years later. Isn't that a cool story? And he's
Yeah.
like, that's how New Orleans is because he was playing blues and I was playing gospel, right? But anyway, he went on to tell me because my last name is Picou, and he said, I want you to look up your genealogy. He says, but I'm pretty sure you're related to Alphonse Picou. And he said Alphonse Picou is considered the the father of jazz clarinet.
Oh,
So
that's
I haven't
crazy.
looked into it, but I mean, Picou's quite a big name in the South, especially Louisiana.
Yes, it's a crazy story, really interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, you just never know who you're gonna meet. In the same way I met the Neville brothers. I was in New Orleans all the time, and I never met the Neville brothers till they came to Edmonton. Because when you live in New Orleans, you have all kind of good music around you. Like you have people that's just as good, that's just busking on the streets. Like they're like world class people, but they're just not like discovered or on TV, right? So you grow up hearing all this music, and so you don't have this big need to go see anyone, right? But when they came to Edmonton, I guess as they say, everything happens at the perfect time. And I guess I was supposed to meet them here in Edmonton.
Have you been busking yourself?
I've never been busking. I went out. I've gone with people who've done it, but me myself, I've never busked.
Would you want to do that?
Uh, and because it's so cold here in Canada, like almost half the year is cold. So, um, not really, to be quite honest. I've never had a big urge to go busking. I prefer like either open mic or performing inside, I guess.
Where it's nice and warm as well.
Yeah, where it's nice and warm. And sometimes, people's appreciation for buskers, sometimes they treat you as more like, oh, get out of here. Like you're making, that you don't get the appreciation that you deserve.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But when you see someone like there, when you're walking by, it's really nice to watch sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's really good like to hear. Like again, I grew up in New Orleans, right? And I mean, a lot of people like you go through the French quarters, especially now like because the Super Bowl's in New Orleans, like which is the Super Bowl's tomorrow,
Yeah,
Sunday, right?
Monday
And
here.
so yeah, it's Monday there. So it's technically, I guess it's probably it's at, I don't know if it's after midnight, but long story short, the Super Bowl's in New Orleans, right? And a lot of buskers are gonna make a lot of money, man, on Bourbon Street. Those kids get out there and they tap dance or they sing and they play instruments. And people they come in there in New Orleans, that's their dream. So the money just pours out their pocket into your case, into your hat.
I feel like it takes a lot of bravery to be a busker. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I do agree with it. I yeah,
Hey,
I
Kendrick
truly
Lamar is going to be at the Super Bowl halftime show. Is that right?
yeah, he is. Yeah, they had a bit of a controversy because I guess Lil Wayne's not performing, and he's from New Orleans, right? And they're like, I don't know why that didn't happen, but anyway, that's how it is. Oh, I have to mention one more musician. He's a modern day. I really love John Batiste,
Oh,
and
yes.
he's from Metairie. So Metairie is like about 30 minutes west of New Orleans, depending on what part of the city, but just outside of New Orleans, right? But yeah, I love John Batiste, and I've had a few people tell me that I remind them of him because he's a very smiley guy, and he's a piano player, and he's loud, and I'm loud.
You
A
know,
lot of times when people say, I tend to go really big.
like us Greeks as well. And do you know who you remind me of always since I've known you? Eddie Murphy for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, when I was younger, my nickname was Eddie. People literally used to call me Eddie when I was younger because I really looked like him when I had hair and I had a mustache.
That's amazing. And have you acted at all before or have any aspirations
I
to?
acted in a church play before, but other than that, not really. Like I think that one play and most of my experience has been performing wise has been music, and sometimes I'll sing. Like when I used to at the church, sometimes I would sing because my cousin could play the organ, so I would get up and sing, right? But most of the time, I'm singing, and most of the time, if I'm singing, I'm usually playing an instrument.
I feel like we met through another artist on Instagram called Stephanie. Is that right?
Uh, Stephanie, she does a lot of like gospel stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I think we both know Stephanie, but I think what happened is that we randomly liked each other's stuff, and we just kept following each other, right? Like we were really faithful following each other, like, and I that was probably about 2019, 2018, and we just kept in touch.
Yeah, that's right.
But
And
yeah, well, we both know Stephanie, and she might have. You're right. She might have been the connector. She might have been the
Stephanie
person to
Heights.
tell.
Stephanie Heights, yeah?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie Heish. Yeah, and I even done a few years ago. I did a collab video with her for like a Christmas song. I can't remember what song it was, but it's on my Instagram somewhere.
And of course, we both know Rob as well.
Oh, I love Rob Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved his message. Like the first, did you see his first video he did for the new year?
Yes, yes, I did.
It was yeah, it wasn't music at all, and I thought that was and I think that's maybe a great word to use in songs is existence, exist, and he was talking about in the world you get like people always wonder what do you do, how much you make, where do you live, and he's like, well, just because you exist, that's all. That the fact that you exist is a big deal,
That's
right? And
true.
because it's a miracle that you exist, right?
Yes, it is. And it's a blessing every day to be alive and to have a roof over our heads, have water
Right.
and good family and friends.
Exactly. And I think as artists, it's really powerful that we can share our ideas and inspire other people. Like there's a quote I never forget, but there's a dictator, Lenin. Like people often talked about Hitler, but Lenin was worse than Hitler. And he was a dictator in Russia. And he said war was the worst way to conquer a people. He said the best way to conquer people is through the artists and the musicians and the storytellers. He said if you can get them to perform, to sing, to write about your ideas, then you win the people over without firing a shot. That's how powerful art is, right?
Yeah, and you never really know how you're going to impact others with your own art. So yeah, it's
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you hear a person. I mean, and that's what I love about Instagram is like a lot of times, like I'll hear you or other people, and I'll say, wow, okay, that's interesting. Next time I do a song, I'm gonna try to do that. I like that chord. I'll try to put that chord in my song or that lyric or that rhythm, right?
yeah, we can always pick up some sort of inspiration from others as well, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No matter what level they are, from beginner to expert, right? Like you can always find something because we're all individuals, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we all have something different and unique and special to offer in our own ways.
Yeah, so then I think that like I really do think it's just an honor to be able to be like a musician, right? To be someone. I think everyone's creative because I think we all come from a creator, right? God, and so we all are creative beings naturally. And but some of us, it comes through music and writing and performing. I mean, that's why people love going to movies, right? But imagine movies without music.
I saw you
Like
went to
some of
a
the,
movie.
huh?
Did you recently go to a movie?
I went to a movie today. I saw Love Hurts. It's really good. If you like action comedy, it's a very good movie. And the interesting thing is the main guy that does like he's like a martial arts expert. He's the little kid from the 1984 Indiana Jones movie Temple of Doom. And so he's like, I think he's like 50 something years old now, but man, he's like, if you like Jackie Chan, you're like this guy. Yeah,
Always like
he's,
him. Yeah. Jackie
yeah,
Chan's
he's
awesome.
real. You'll love it, mate. I know you would like this movie. It's called Love Hurts. It's a great action comedy.
I'll check it out for sure. Yeah, man, I agree with what you said earlier about black and white films and maybe without music as well. Like just with Rowan Atkinson, how he doesn't really talk that much in his movies, but also with the
Yeah,
actions he does, we can
yeah,
understand.
exactly. Yeah, and the music goes along with his facial. He does something with his face, and the music follows. That's something I saw on Disney Plus that you would like. I highly recommend any musician write it. It's on Disney Plus. It's about John Williams. John Williams, I think, is in his 90s and he still writes music and he writes it out by hand because he's never figured out computers. So he literally writes his music out note by hand. And if you've been to movies in the last 60 years, you've heard John Williams. He's done the soundtrack to Jaws, Star Wars,
Harry Potter.
Schindler's List,
Harry Potter.
Superman. Huh?
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's done. Yeah, I bet you he's done one or two Harry Potters, if not all of them. Like, yeah, he's prolific. Yeah, Steven Spielberg. Him and if it's a Steven Spielberg movie like E.T., that's John Williams. Close Encounters. Da-na-na-na-na. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. I know exactly who you're talking about. He's so good, so talented.
But you know, but you think about your favorite scenes in a movie, and you can also think about the music that goes with that scene.
Yeah, the music plays a huge part in how we watch it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's seen Darth Vader, they know dun 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 dun. Like, I mean, that makes that like imagine him walking in without that music. It's not the same.
Or like when the Star Wars credits roll, and they're like da 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 dum bum
Yeah,
and all the credits roll
yeah.
down. Love that.
Oh yeah. Well, he reminds me of John Williams reminds me of Beethoven because he always has big. His sound is always big, right?
Yeah, epic
Um,
almost.
yeah, yeah, epic, yeah.
Where can everyone that's watching you check you out here? Find
Well,
you.
a lot of my stuff is on Instagram. I would say most of my stuff is on Instagram. There's a bit on YouTube. Uh, I would say right now Instagram and then YouTube. A little bit of Facebook, but Facebook is mainly pictures. But if you want to hear music, mostly Instagram and YouTube.
As Roylin Picou, yeah?
That's on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Juicy Juicy Jazz,
That's
and
right.
on on YouTube, you just put in my name, Roylin Picou or RJP63.
I was wondering if you have any good quotes to leave us with.
Well, I'll leave you a quote because there's so much goes on in the world, right? And people fear, and I like they said DMX was such a great performer, and he was really powerful, very spiritual guy to watch perform. And he had a quote I saw on a YouTube short, and he said, "God won't walk you to what He won't walk you through." And one of my quotes is, "Allow the wow," right? Because you know you just like your body is like you're a miracle, you're a walking miracle, so just allow the wow of life, like just allow life to bless you, right? Just get out the way, get, as they say, get out your own way, and let and see, like, look how we met, right? Like, it's you can't plan that. You can't plan how a guy from Louisiana that lives in Canada meets a guy from Australia on Instagram playing an instrument that he just learned to play when he's like 55 years old. Like, who would like that? Doesn't make sense,
That's
right?
right, but
But
somehow music brought us together.
yeah, so that's what I mean. And music, well, think about it. Like, that's what music is a great example of allowing the wow, right? Like, you think of any great artist, that's all they did. Michael Jackson, the Beatles, right? Chuck Berry, Beethoven, right? All these guys, Joni Mitchell, the other chick, what's the girl that used to sing Bobby McGee? What's her name?
I
But
know what you
anyway,
mean, like Elvis and stuff like that.
yeah,
Legendary.
Elvis,
Yeah.
yeah, lots of legends, right? And they just allow that music to happen, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway, so
Anything.
that's about, I mean, there's lots of quotes, but that's what comes to mind now. I mean, Dr. King's got so many great quotes, right? So you can just start with him. You can't go wrong with a Dr. King quote.
What's one of your personal quotes that you've come up with?
For me, a personal quote that, well, one of the things I say to myself every day is, everything's always working out for me. Everything's always working out for me wonderfully, beautifully. better than I could ever imagine. Indubitably. So, and I just say things to myself. I'm divinely directed, divinely protected, and divinely connected. That's when I say quite a bit.
Yeah, mate, that's fantastic. And I look forward to keep following you and your music journey and on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere you are.
And I'll leave you with a lyric from one of my songs. Let your joy be outrageous. Let your joy be contagious.
Let your joy be outrageous and contagious. I love it, mate. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So, because I think that's the good infection, as they say. The more people are joyful, happy, and loving, the more peace we'll have in the world.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, mate. That was really cool. And I wish you all the best for the rest of your music career and journey. And I love following what you're doing. Your smile lights up the screen whenever I view Instagram or see you.
I'll leave you with one of the things I often tell people when I'm partying, and I say, have a wonderful everything.
Thank you, Roylin. Appreciate you, mate.
All right, mate, and make sure your music stays juicy, right? We want our music to be juicy, juicy, juicy.
Always juicy, bro. Keep it juicy, mate.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Have a wonderful everything.